Boy, do we have a big update in a case involving a Georgia 9th grade teacher accused of sexually abusing one of her own students.
Boy, do we have a big update in a case involving a Georgia 9th grade teacher accused of sexually abusing one of her own students. That opening line from a recent broadcast isn't just an introduction. It's the first crack in a carefully constructed facade. Danielle Weaver was the fun teacher, the one with the TikTok personality, the one students could relate to. But the grand jury indictment we've obtained tells a different story, and the details of what Weaver allegedly did to one of her own students are, frankly, sick. This is a case that proves appearance is never the same as reality. Imagine a popular children's book with a beautiful cover, but inside, every page is a court document. That's where we are. The cover is social media, the pages are the indictment. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to Endless Cryme, because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. The last time we discussed this case, we knew the Georgia Bureau of Investigation had been called in. We knew Danielle Weaver
This teacher's name is Danielle Weaver, and she was pretty outspoken on TikTok. She showed a lot of personality on social media. She seemed to be that fun teacher who students could look up to, that teacher who perhaps they could relate to. But now, she is facing decades in prison for what she allegedly did. And we just got our hands on the grand jury indictment and, frankly, the details of what Weaver allegedly did to one of her own students.
in big trouble, but the details were sealed.
The last time we talked about the teacher we're talking about today, Danielle Weaver, we knew that she was in big trouble for what she allegedly did. It was back in February, and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation had been called in to investigate her and investigate whether she had molested one of her own students. But at that point, the details surrounding what she allegedly did, that hadn't been released. We just knew that she was going to be facing charges potentially. But all of that now has changed in the wake of the documentation that we just got our hands on.
Now, the grand jury has spoken, and the indictment from Lee County Superior Court lays out 8 charges, including multiple counts of child molestation. The police are alleging she sexually abused a student multiple times. This didn't just happen in a dark alley. It happened in her classroom, in the school store, and even in the parking lot of a Sonic fast food restaurant. This is where the first irony explodes. Danielle Weaver wasn't just a teacher. She was a wife and she was a mother. She had a child of her own, and now she is accused of sexually abusing a child. The moral refrain begins now. Trust is the weapon. Trust is the weapon. And when trust is weaponized, the collateral damage is invisible. Now we move to the parallel narrative. Before the charges, Weaver was the teacher whose students could look up to. She was active on social media, posting videos with her students and sharing her personal life. One video shows
a blue raspberry fruit roll-up, and I put strawberry ice cream in it. It's really good. Listen. And it's crunchy. Got my sweet pregnancy fix on.
her talking about a snack being funny and relatable. She posted a video complaining about a creepy man in a parking lot, asking, "Why do men have to be so creepy sometimes?" It's a question that now seems deeply ironic. She seemed to be that approachable teacher, the one who blurred the lines between authority and friendship. The indictment, however, shows her alleged crimes were not a moment of bad judgment. They were a pattern. Count.
Grand jury indictment out of Lee County Superior Court in Georgia. So this indictment lays out what Weaver allegedly did, and it goes count by count. There are 8 counts total, and count 1 alleges that in Weaver's classroom, so we're on school property here, it says that she did commit an immoral and indecent act to and with the victim who is under the age of 16 with the intent to arouse and satisfy the sexual desires of both said accused and said child by kissing and fondling him, and it continues on. Now, count 2 alleges similar activity, but this time it happened, quote, in the school store. Both of these alleged incidents happened sometime between January 20th and January 23rd. So those are 2 alleged sex acts that took place on school property. Then you have count 3 that alleges that Weaver sexually abused the same student on January 24th in the parking lot of a Sonic fast food restaurant. Then January 26th, Weaver allegedly sexually abused that student in her car in the parking lot of their school. Now, that is the 4th count of child molestation that Weaver is now facing. And then there's 4 other counts, and those all...
That in her classroom, she committed an immoral act with a student under 16, kissing and fondling him to satisfy her own desires. Count 2 alleges similar activity in the school store. Both happened between January 20th and January 23rd, but it didn't stop there. Count 3 alleges she sexually abused the same student on January 24th in the parking lot of a Sonic. Count 4 alleges she did it again in her car in the school parking lot on January 26th. 4 counts of child molestation and 4 counts of sexual contact by an employee or agent in the first degree. The timeline is telling. The alleged incidents happened in late January. Police were first called to investigate on February 3rd. The GBI was called in the next day. Weaver turned herself in on February 18th.
Counts. So we know that police were first called to investigate on February 3rd. And then the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the statewide agency, they were called in to investigate the next day. But it wasn't until February 17th that GBI filed warrants for Weaver's arrest. Weaver then turned herself into the county jail on February 18th, and she was held on a $50,000 bond, and she was able to post that, and she's been released. Now, reportedly, according to WALB television, her bond conditions say that she can't have any direct contact or indirect contact with the alleged victim, be within a mile of that alleged victim. It also says she cannot return to any education facility for someone under the age of 18 in Lee.
And was released on a $50,000 bond. Her bond conditions now bar her from any contact with the victim and ban her from any education facility for people under 18. The Lee County School
Statement to parents obtained by WALB. The Lee County school system said this, quote, reports and rumors are circulating concerning alleged inappropriate contact between a teacher and student in a Lee County school system. We at the 9th grade campus can confirm that there is an ongoing legal investigation involving law enforcement concerning the alleged conduct of a former staff member who is no longer working for the district. Upon discovering the allegations, school and district leadership acted immediately to ensure the safety and well-being of students, as well as to conduct a thorough investigation. The individuals who have been directly affected have been contacted. The district will continue to cooperate with law enforcement as well as with those affected to ensure that no obstacles to resolving the investigation exist. The safety and well-being of our students remains our highest priority.
System issued a statement confirming the investigation and saying they acted immediately to ensure safety. But here's the ticking clock moment. The mandatory reporting laws in Georgia are clear. If someone has reasonable cause to believe a child has been abused, they have to report it. So here is the rhetorical question that reframes this story as a thriller's. When a teacher allegedly abuses a student multiple times over several days in 3 different locations on school property, how many people had to see something, say nothing, or simply miss the signs? The answer is a security failure that transforms a local scandal into a systemic crisis. Let's look at the hard evidence. The divorce filing is a stark piece of this parallel narrative. The day after Weaver,
their mom, but also Danielle Weaver was married at the time of her arrest. And it appears, according to court records out of Georgia, that her husband filed for divorce in the wake of her arrest. The filing was put in on February 19th, so that's a day after Weaver turned herself into authorities on the charges, including child molestation. That was back in February. Now, the document alleges that Weaver's husband left her on February 5th, which is the day after GBI was called in. And the filing also says the marriage is irretrievably broken. Weaver's husband filed for custody of the couple's children and for possession of the couple's home, according to those court records out of Lee County Court. Now, there has not been an update related to the civil proceedings in this case.
Turned herself in, her husband filed for divorce. The document alleges the marriage was irretrievably broken and that he left her on February 5th, the day after the GBI was called in. He filed for custody of their children and possession of the home. The divorce filing makes no mention of the criminal case, but the implication is clear. The personal life Weaver presented was already crumbling. The moral refrain echoes again. Trust is the weapon. Former sex crimes prosecutor Dan Shore notes that the allegations are not a one-time incident. The indictment claims she had the student touch her vagina with his fingers. Shore points out that while sexual intercourse would be a higher-level violation, the digital penetration of a child,
as from a prosecutor's standpoint,
it does. It changes the level of egregiousness and possibly the count that the person's charged with and maybe convicted of, and also sentencing. So having digital penetration of her vagina, which is what is alleged, is very serious because he's under 16 years old. That is sex abuse. Sexual intercourse would be even a higher level of criminal violation if it was proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and would probably, if that occurred and if that was proven, lead to lengthier sentence if there was an incarceration as part of the sentence. So it's a level of seriousness in change, but they both categorize as sexual abuse.
Under 16 is very serious. The difference in charges affects sentencing, but both are categorized as severe sexual abuse. The 4 separate incidents mean potential for consecutive sentences. If convicted on each count, she could serve time for one incident, then another, and another. The location of the crimes is critical. 3 of the 4 alleged incidents happened on school property. The school could face civil liability if it can be proven they knew or should have known about the grooming behavior. The school system's own statement says they acted immediately upon discovering the allegations, but the question is what they knew before that. And here is the investigators' goldmine, the corroboration they seek. They will look for contemporaneous text messages the victim sent to friends, security footage that may or may not have been preserved, and any interactions the school staff may have noted that blurred the lines of appropriateness. The unanswered question remains. If Danielle Weaver was such a fun and relatable teacher, a figure students could confide in, how did this happen? How did the lines get crossed? The expert insight is that sexual abuse by authority figures is not instant. It's a process of ingratiation and boundary probing, a grooming period that looks like friendship. The trusted person is the one who can groom. The final moral refrain: trust is the weapon. The call to research is this: go to the Lee County Superior Court Public Records portal and pull the official grand jury indictment. Read the specific language of counts 1 through 4. The gap between the public persona and the legal document is the entire tragedy. We are following the evidence here at Endless Cryme. If you want to see the moment the courtroom doors open and the truth starts to bleed out, you need to be watching. Like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications right now, because when the cover is ripped off, we will be the ones reading the pages.